our keynote session for the day that would be by Ms. Meenakshi Dagar, who is the India CFO at Lenovo. Giving a brief introduction, she is a seasoned professional with 17 plus years of work experience across multiple domains. She has handled multiple roles within Lenovo and has been instrumental in driving business synergies and P&L results across several positions in India and Asia Pacific region. Prior to Lenovo, she has worked with brands like MX, Tech Mahindra, and Dell in various finance capacities. With this, please welcome Ms. Meenakshi with a huge round of applause.
Morning to all of you. Firstly, let me put few disclaimers and very good session. Thank you for all the notes there. I'm not a consultant, so if you don't like my presentation, my apology for that. But this will be some of my experiences, what I have lived all through 18, 19 years, and what we see now. And second, as some of my brands, which I think were explained in my key summary note, these are all IT industry. And I'll give a bit of a context why I say that, but a lot of experiences which I'm going to talk through, which are challenges for many of us and how do we address them in coming years, will be majority of those linked to the IT industry, but I hope some of you who belong to the other industry do find it relevant too. So let me talk about IT industry. And since I come from Lenovo, I'm quite glued to what PC and overall laptop uses. All of us are user of something or other device. We do use mobiles, we use tablets, we use PC, workstation, desktop, or something or other. India market, if I were to talk pre-pandemic, was around 8 million units sold across India. And you know our population, right? So you know what 8 million means in that. Over the last 2 years, the market has gone from 8 million units to a 16 million units. A size of market which we never thought that the market is going to double. But we all know what happened when the pandemic came and online became the mantra of the life. So everybody's starting buying laptops. But what happened this year, right? Have been in this industry for almost 19 years. I'll say one of the most challenging year. And why is it so? Because your stakeholders, your shareholders, your organization, your management, nobody expects a degrowth. And this is something which all of us are seeing the reality across, that what organizations are talking, right? Cost optimization has become a fashion, I think, in this year, that everybody wants to do that, and this is how I think the industry is pursuing. So many of the experiences with what I'm talking, I'll say that it's probably even a summary of last 6 months. That when you enter in the office at 9:30 a.m. and you'll have to exit at 8 p.m. in the office, there are new challenges on your table. There are new questions which you'll have to answer, and there are new plannings and visions which you'll have to define and design for your team. So it's around that. With that, let me start my presentation. And these are some of the challenges which I think today, as many of us who are doing the CFO roles do have on our tables. I'm not going to talk through all, but yeah, I think to talk about few cost optimization, we are hearing this across the globe today. There are all organizations who are looking into new ways of optimizing cost. And my own experience and realization is that if we talk cost optimization, it's at a ceiling. If I were to say at a BAU thinking, we all know that how to negotiate with the vendors, having a 5 to 6% negotiation. We all know that some of the costs like real estate has been at one of the most optimal level over the last few years. Employees' costs have been at one of the most optimal level in the last 2 to 3 years. So if we keep doing the BAU thinking, there is nothing which I am achieving, and I'm happy to learn offline if any of you are achieving that differently, but it's one of the biggest challenge. Then coming to the finance function, staff skill optimization and fight to stay relevant. And some of my later slides will answer that, but yeah, if we continue to be traditional, I'm not finding the solution for that and how my organization is expecting me as a CFO and my team as a finance function to behave. The third point, the point I was making, right, the IT industry has gone from 8 million to 16 million. We at Lenovo has grown from a 1 billion revenue to a 2 billion. And my team size was the same in 19-20, it's the same in 21-22, and it's going to be the same in 22-23. Because that's how organization sees that the support function beyond a point will not have the capacity to double your headcount and to give you a lot more resources there. So how do you still support the business with the same enthuse, with the same kind of productivity, with the same kind of efficiency which is expected by the top management, which is expected by your stakeholders, expected by your own team to not stretch like 18, 19 hours in a day. Buying in for the required level of automation, I think automation in digital, we all are seeing it's overly abused beyond a point. I feel that we all want to do digital way, but we don't have to do digital everywhere. At the same time, we still have to do it at the relevant spaces. So as a CFO, as a CMO, as a CHRO, how do you know that what are the top 3 or 4 priorities in your organization for you to automate that? And let me tell you, when I analyze for my function, I can see that it can be across all 10 areas I'm working today. But then will we be able to do all 10? Probably answer to that is no. So how do you prioritize? I think will be there. Then in terms of the digital world, one thing what we are realizing that as we are using more and more online and digital, compliance as a topic, and to ensure that digital frauds are not to the level where we want it to be, to have the right compliance is definitely turning a big challenge. And I'll give you a small example. We have a program at Lenovo to give a price parity to our offline channel. And this is all digitalized, that there are online platforms who can edit their pricing and everything day in, day out. And for us to even catch that small fraud, it's extremely complex, because you could have 10,000 claims coming in a day. And how will you make it if you are not digital? And at the same time, the guys who are claiming is all using all kind of platforms which are spread across the country in terms of the online pricing. So how do you still keep the compliance as at the core of entire digitalization which is happening in your industry and in your company, still relevant topic? Organization-wide CX mindset, I think this is, so all our organization, no matter which company we are working for, everybody wants to be customer-centric. But do we see that in each parts of the organization, in each department, and each individual in the organization living this? Answer to that also could be difficult for us, and we'll have to find that answer. Next one, complex business models. So this I'll say that we are evolving, right? Today, I think in IT industry, I can say almost 30% of the business is happening online. And that ratio was around 10 to 15% if I were to talk 2 years back. So as the route to market and go to markets, strategies are changing, and it's turning even more and more complex. For the finance world, how do you get the visibility of the real ROI and end-to-end cost? It's not an easy topic. I mean, we are struggling day in, day out to build those, especially around the new route to market, that how do you get that full-fledged P&L visibility? Extract information from data, simpler said than done, but when you churn the data, I mean, something as simple topic as pricing, all of us do pricing for our products. But if you take even one particular route, let's say Flipkart as an example, and you want to analyze the pricing is changing every hour. So how do you get the context? And then you could have 50 products on that platform. So how do you still extract the information from that severely complex data, and how do you make the use of it for the decision making? It is a big challenge today. The next one is, which I think all of us are seeing, and I will say in my life, when I enter an office, I check currency every day. Morning, first thing, that what's the FX is trending, and it's so volatile. Over the last 3 months, all of us have seen the swings. So as a CFO, how do we decide that should we hedge or not? Should my hedging be a month? Should it be 3 months? Should it be 6 months? Should it be a year? Those answers are not easy in the current context of things. And then there are a lot of macro factors which are obviously influencing these things. So these are the top ones which are in my mind, which I'm seeing as I'm living my life day in, day out in IT industry as a CFO. Now, how do we go about it? Which is the answer in the next one. So for myself, at least, I defined that there has to be few big bets wherein I'll have to play a role, and my team has to play a role, and I'll have to ensure that the rest of the organization and the stakeholder around the company also should play a role. So 8 big bets, and these are my principles, and I'm sure all of us do define our life that, what are the big bets will be for you and how do you solve your challenges. For me, I think the topmost is know your business. And this I'll say, if I have to make a decision as a CFO today in the organization, just as a CFO, is the easiest, because I know this is black and this is white. But the moment I put myself into a CEO shoes, into a CHRO, into a CMO, those are not the easy decision. So I will say that do keep in mind each and every stakeholders. You are answerable to the shareholders. You are answerable to the street. You are answerable to every parts of the organization. What does your CEO want? What does your CIO want? What does your CMO wants? So the moment we, put ourselves into the shoes of everyone and wear that hat, that I'm not just accountable only for finance, I'm accountable for the business, and what is best for all of us, including myself, my own team, and all the stakeholders, then probably the life become easy, which is what I try to inculcate in me and invite that behavior, that every decision has to be that what is best for the organization, which is very important. Then data insights to be transformed into a timely business decision. So let me give an example that we roll out a program, and as a finance, we come with outcome and findings and ROI, let's say a month down the line. The program has already expired on 15th of the month, and 16th, the new program has gone. And in a 1 month, the industry has changed. The product which you are placing has changed. You are to the next generation. At least in IT, it happens that your product generation keeps changing, and whatever your findings were probably may not be relevant. So as a finance, how do I make that information really relevant and timely decision making for my business partners, for my stakeholders is very, very important. The time is really the essence there. Next one is competitive intelligence. I think, and this is a fight, and I don't know, I would be happy to learn offline, but to get the right competitive intelligence and the insights, it's never an easy task. What route you use? Are you going to use Gartner? Are you going to use your own, frontliners who are there and seeing the competition? Are you going to use the partner ecosystem? It's never easy, so define that for yourself. That if I need competitive intelligence, it's very important. I can't be just looking at the internal world. I have to know what is happening in the industry. So what are the 2-3 key routes will be for us as a CFO to get the relevant information. All our business plans do depend on competitive intelligence, and for that information to be really relevant and forward-looking is extremely important when we make our own internal business plans. Next one is governance. I'm a big fan of governance, but I'm not overkilled on governance that it has to be, there are things working, right? And there are things working fine. So I always believe that do not try to fix what is working. If you have a basic structure of compliance, that's absolutely fine. And as we define and design the new ways of doing, keep evolving in our business, only try to fix what is broken. Something which is working and we try to do over-engineering, I've always realized that it's only waste of bandwidth for many of us and it doesn't really work in the current context and you could have a lot of business feedback. So just fix as far as governance is concerned, what is relevant, what is needed, and what is broken, which will help you to ensure that there are right controls, compliances, system and processes in the organization. Modern tech, which is automation adoption to the real needs. So in terms of automation, I think we are doing a lot of things. I'm sure many of you are using Power BI and we are trying to make life easy for our team, that how is the information can come from the system and so on and so forth. One thing at Lenovo which we are doing is really ensuring that when you are doing the automation, one, it's the real need, the two, it's done the right way. Which means if you just put all the fancy information on the Power BI and your team is struggling to put that for like 9-10 hours and still half of the things are manual and then you want to see the fancy outcomes, it's not a real automation. So if you really want to automate, I think ensure that all the systems are well connected, there's a right flow from one system to another and there is a least manual intervention. If you do half-baked things, then I have realized my team end up even wasting more time correcting that data, analyzing that data, and finally probably making nothing out of it but just wasting that many man-hours in the organization. So it's very important that how do you adopt the modern tech, do the digitalization, but something which is relevant for our team, something which is really needed in the organization, and automate it to the highest possible level, not a lower-end automation. The next one is profit versus value. I think this is something which we have been taught right from our entry into the corporate, that profit for the organization is very important. And I have believed that in the initial year of my career that, okay, I'll have to just ensure that my GP percentage is delivered, GP dollars are delivered. But I think I'll say over the last 5-6 years, my own perspective has changed on this point. And what I have finally adopted is that it's not the profit, it's the value. If I have a DSAT customer and I'm serving 2,000 customers and none of them return to me for a second sale or for a second buy or for a second experience with Lenovo as a customer, then I think we are failing as an organization. And that is something which a CEO of the organization, a CMO of the organization can realize. CFO should be the first person to realize that only a happy customer will give you money. No sad customer will ever give you money. So how do we ensure as a CFO we play our role, that there is a value which we are creating to our customer, and that eventually will transform into profit. But profit should not be the start point. The value should be the start point, and it will yield you what results you are expecting from your P&L to come your way. The next one, and this I'll say the recent one, right? In the current year, manage stress. All of us are going through, and this is not just the emotional or the mental stress, this is about the P&L stress I'm talking. That, same coming back to that industry which have almost doubled in terms of the potential, and so is the organization. Majority of the organization have already tasted exponential growth. Nobody wants to decline. So this is adding to the stress in terms of the profitability management, in terms of the P&L management, in terms of the stakeholder management. And I'll say a lot to do right now in the current context about the expectations. None of our CEOs, CFOs, our shareholders want to accept a degrowth, right? But when you see such stress, there is always what we say, don't waste the crisis. There's always an alternative opportunity which you can explore. When we are pushed to the core, I've always found that there's always another alternative in life which is waiting for you. And so is in the business, that if this route for me has stopped, what are the other routes? Do I want to go merger acquisition? Do I want to do a differentiated solution for my customers? What I can do, and likewise internal stakeholders, what differently we can do, which is not something which has worked. Cost optimization at BU thinking, this is answer, that if I keep negotiating with the same procurement route that get me 3-4%, and I've tried this and I've failed. It's not working. So how do I still optimize the cost in the organization? How do I not waste the crisis but make the most of it is going to be very, very important. At least I see for IT industry, next 4-5 years are not going to be different. So how do I use that crisis will be the key. And the last one, I think we love complexity. And I personally have believed that if we can keep the thing simple, it's one of the best achievement for any of us, for any of our team members would be that have your goals meaningful to achieve, but at the same time keep it as simple as possible for yourself and for everybody around you to still have connect to those goals and ensure they have a buying in into those goals. So that's very important. Moving on to next slide, and again, this is about finance vision, and I'm sure all of you are defining a vision for your own team, and all of us have our own beliefs. Many of this could be what is relevant for your organization, for your industry, but I'll say when I was defining this for my own team, and every word is quite thought through, that what is needed, a trusted partner to, and I'm going to read this, my apology for that, a trusted partner to enable profitable growth by investing in automation analytics to drive optimal decision and people to outperform competitive landscape. And then there's a graph on the right side, which still says that for us to be growth enabler is very important. That is at the core. Either you talk as a CEO, you talk as a CHRO, CMO, all of us are relevant. We will keep growing our salaries, we'll keep growing our organization only because with the growth mindset. That's very important. But CFO has to play a role in rest of the four, which is policy and procedure, automation, customer mindset, and a skill team. So this is something I believe even if I keep this vision, let's say for next 3 years, 4 years, it will definitely be relevant. I don't know what's going to happen after that, and we'll have to see our experiences, how things change over the next 3 to 4 years. But this is something which I've told my team that we are going to live in day out, and we are going to actually believe in it, and we are going to execute it. This is very important for the finance organization. Now I'll tell you how do we transform this in terms of the action. So this is a statement, but coming to the action in all 4 categories. And these are the top ones. Obviously, when you do work, you will have a long list, but in each of the category, if I were to talk top 3 and top 4, automation and data driven, right? In this first category, there is something called pilot self-service to the organization. And at least I have experienced that, in the past, and we have come out of this problem now, there is always, HR head sitting on my head that I need this financial analysis for the productivity. There's a CMO that I need your plans, I need your historicals, then there is a CIO, then there is a operations head, and so forth. So what we have done at Lenovo is that we have made actually many of those data as a self-service to them. And sometimes you'll have to prove it because nobody wants to extract, even if you give them a ready-to-use dashboard, nobody wants to use it. That send me over an email or send me a fancy PPT. This is a habit which you'll have to drive in the organization, and I'm really struggling hard on it, but I think it's much needed that whosoever in the organization, if you are the required user of this information, then you have to go for a self-service. This is a concept evolving from the restaurants that, so many are using self-service. So why not the financial data? Why do I have to pre-feed and, overfeed the data to all parts of the organization? Next one, standardize 100% non-strategic finance process. So all of us do this forecasting and so forth. There are so many processes in finance which can be centralized and standardized, and you can use a skill set which is not as high probably, and you can differentiate those, right? What is your level 1, level 2, level 3 skill set? And some of the functions can be done with relatively lesser competency, standardized, and you'll also achieve synergies as you do the standardization. The third one, which is showcase use cases and prove the automation. So I'll give you an example. We wanted to track the profitability for the second sale, which we do to our channel partner. And we struggled a lot. And more than the external struggle, the biggest struggle was that my own team who is working on this data manually did not have the buying in that if I put in next 3-4 months into this project, am I going to make use of it? So it always helps, and it did help me in this particular case, that you just show a pilot to them, that if you automate, let's say for one partner, what does it mean for you? So the manual hours which they were spending otherwise, which is 10 to 12 hours in terms of making that end-to-end information available, it was reduced to 2 to 3 hours. So to show that importance to your stakeholders, to your own team to get their buy-in, I think it's very important. Identify the places and show a use case and then go all over. Buying in is very, very important when you do the digital. And last one, of course, quite commonsensical, that be logical and insight-driven to get the alignment from all the business stakeholders. Next one about policy and processes. So this is something which is there as at the core of all the organizations, right? But as we are seeing a very dynamic world, and we are changing, and we are transforming ourselves. In terms of dynamic business models, one thing I'm realizing that if you define a process today, it may be very outdated even 6 months down the line. We are trying to go in Lenovo on the service-led transformation, and we have a perfectly working vendor payment processing, and let me tell you, it's not working in the service-led transformation because the expectations of the vendors are so different. So I think I got to have adoption as a CFO, and so is my team, and so is my control and compliance team, that the processes which have worked may not be relevant in the today's context. So how do we evolve and define those processes will be very, very important, and this is an ongoing process that as you come up with the new business models, you will have to keep defining and adopting to the changes and keep redoing those processes. AI and machine learning. So to some of the questions which I was saying, that compliance in today's digital world is definitely becoming a challenging. One thing which we have done, and we are already live on that project in Lenovo, is that we are using AI and machine learning for the predictive business analytics. So there is a order to cash end-to-end life cycle which all of us do live in organization, and we have built the analytics with the help of LUD and Power BI and few other tools put together, wherein we can see some of the outliers. So it's not a reactive audit, but these are like predictive analytics and a proactive information which is available to the relevant stakeholders, including business, sales, and so on and so forth, for them to really know that these are the outliers which are happening in your business. And you cannot do reactive audit. I struggled with that over the last 2 years, that there are so many escalations, from the channel ecosystem, from the sales field, and you just have 2 or 3 resources. So how are you going to cope up with that need, right? It's about creating those outliers and let business own some of those things. And it helps quite well in the controls domain, what I realized. The last one is keep policy relevant in current internal and external environment. This is quite basics that we do see that external environments keep changing. So how do we also keep our policy relevant? And sometimes I realize that there are policies not even looked for last 3-4 years, and it could be so outdated. Example, food limit that we have put 2,000 rupees and it doesn't work anymore. This is a very basic example, but there are many big examples like this, that how do you still keep your policies very relevant to the current context and current things, so keep re-looking at that. The third one, customer mindset. I think again, all the 3 points described to that Make it easy for your net frontliners, the guys who are dealing with the customer, sitting in front of the customer, and have to make a decision on behalf of the organization and will end up giving the impression as your brand to the customer. It's very important that they are empowered. Yes, as a CFO, I could be worried that if I empower them, will it translate into the financial leakage? Will they make decision which is probably just making the customer happy? So build those right controls and checks in the places, but do empower them. Simplify your DOS. So many of these steps we have actually practiced, experienced, and executed at Lenovo. That how do we still come across as customer-centric in all parts of the organization. And the last one, skill team. With the new capabilities, so I'm really pushing this agenda hard to my team, and sometimes I could be seen a bit harsh on it, but it's very important in today's context to have a techno-functional team, to have a team which do not believe in hierarchy. If I have an analyst, he's as competent to talk to my CEO or business head as probably my function head would be, right? So some of those, not the traditional, but the modern ways of working, that every team member of yours is empowered and you know, feel that they are adding to the right scale. You will have to invest time in that. So at Lenovo example, we have learning hours, and every 15 days we do that. So what is happening in the industry? How do I improve their technical skills? Power BI, which is I think one of the simplest tool, but at the same time can be complex if not used rightly. How do they again do the self-service, that if I need this view, I'm able to create that. So adding those skills to them. And there are going to be a lot of tools in over the next 2 to 3 years, but how do you keep your team relevant, and how do you get those information, add to their skills, and they don't feel irrelevant in the current context when they are talking to some of the external forums? That will be very important. So some of those rules around that. In the interest of time, my last slide, and these are my beliefs, right? I do feel that ground rules never change. And as a finance, when you're spending, every coin matters. I still have that mindset. All of us have that mindset that when we go and do any shopping, we know what the value of that money, and so is for the organization. So that's very relevant. Enabler mindset, I have always found that when you're thrown in the challenges, you will always come up with something new. I've seen that in many of my team members. So that principle has been there always. It doesn't change. The first two lines could be oxymoron to each other, but I do believe when hard work and smarter work are used together, it probably are the best to complement each other. There's no shortcut to hard work. I have not found any so far. We'll be happy to learn if any of you found that offline. And transformation, again, you know, fewer but the deeper are better. Okay, with that, I end my presentation. Thank you. If any questions, do we have time for that?
Great, thank you so much, and we'll